Hi, everyone. My name is Bill Letson. I'm a retired fire captain. I live here on the central coast of California. And in 1994, when I was on duty, I had I got really ill from a patient, and I had a near-death experience. And I didn't know what to make of that for 15 years. You sounded crazy talking about those things, so I kind of zipped it and I dummied up for until I retired in 2010. And then, um, like a lot of people, I kind of started looking around for answers. And, it took me to Costa Rica and hanging around shaman and living with Native Americans and some of their customs. And I realized over time that that the shaman ways, the shaman knowledge is really ancient knowledge. A lot of people are interested in Egypt and the Mayans and all these ancient cultures that just keep repeating forever back in time. And the shamans are a leftover from those times when we knew more. And so anyway, about my near-death experience. It's 1994, and I was working in Santa Barbara on a paramedic fire engine. I was the engineer, the driver, and there was a flu epidemic going on, and we were running calls. It'd been going on for a couple of weeks, where it was really powerful, and there was a lot of patients. And we ran on this one lady, and she was really ill, and she'd been cooped up in her room for days trying to fight it, and she was losing the battle. And we jumped into, myself and the paramedic. We kind of climbed across the bed, sprung into action, and went to work on her. And I was getting a mask on her, O2 mask, and she exhaled right into my face when I was inhaling. And I took, her hot breath. Maybe we do this sometimes with our loved ones, but I took her hot breath right in, and I looked at the medic and I said, this ain't going to be good. And a couple days later, I was circling the drain myself. And but she turned out okay. We got her into the hospital, and she was there for a while, and she got home and survived. But with me, I was a couple days later, I was super ill. This came on really fast, and I was throwing up, and it was going the other way, and I wasn't keeping any fluids in my body. I was dehydrating rapidly. And on that third day, that mid-morning, that third day, I could barely walk to the bathroom, and I looked in the mirror, and I'm like, oh man, this guy's done for, meaning me. And it was really super gaunt and dark, and I couldn't get a pulse at my wrist. And I knew from being around medics, that was a sign that your pressure was less than 80. Usually it's 120 over 80, but mine was like 80 over 40 or something. And I said, well, I'm not going to be conscious much longer. And I put the call to my little sister, and my niece picked up, and all I could do was whisper. I mean, I could barely speak. It was that bad. And she picked up on it, and she was like, oh man, Uncle Billy's hurting, and they hung up and called 911. And then my fire department came, my Station 22 in North County, and a bunch of wonderful guys. They came, picked me up, started IVs, got me in an ambulance, got me to the hospital. And I came into a hospital in the central coast of California, north of Santa Barbara. And that place was just full. It was just the same flu bug thing was, had taken over that facility. So I was they put me in a room by myself, and the nurses everybody was overwhelmed, and the doctor just prescribed everybody. He gave them the same thing, something for pain and something for nausea. And I came in there with a pressure that was well below 80, and something happened with the morphine-based, the opiate-based pain reliever that they gave me. And I came in there on my knees, and that just knocked me out. It was a knockout punch. And my wife was there, and she said, as soon as they pushed it into the IV port, your eyes rolled back and you fell straight back. And she's like, oh my goodness. And they freaked, the staff freaked out. And they went to work, and they came in immediately and gave me Narcan, which takes care, which gobbles up the opiates. And they said they Narcan me again 5 minutes later, and then they Narcan me a third time about 10 minutes later. And but I was out cold. And she said they put you in a head down position to get the blood to your brain. And they put you, and they gave you, had 2 high flow IVs going in each arm. And they shipped me up to intensive care. And I was out cold. It was about 3:30 in the afternoon, and I was out cold from that point on. And they told me in the morning that they gave me 11 liters, 11 IV bags. It seems impossible. But yeah, they floated the system with, fluids going in both arms, and it worked out. I survived. But sometime during all that, during the night, 1, 2 in the morning, I don't know, I left my body. And I just want to say that the week before all this happened, I was, and a lot of people get this, I was getting this, it came in from the rear on the left side. It was like somebody putting a hand on your shoulder and whispering in your ear. It was very clear. And the words were always the same. You need to get ready. You need to get ready for a change. And it wasn't a doom thing. It wasn't, oh my God, something's that. It didn't have that emotion or that feel at all. Just that there was going to be a change, and I had to be ready for it. And so I did a lot of loving things. I took my wife out, and I took long runs with the dogs, and took my nieces, and my wife even said, what's going on? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm really sentimental about my life. And this seems to be like an important thing. So it was kind of like, just getting ready to say goodbye. So yeah, it was absolutely, I've talked to others, and they say the same thing, that it comes in on the left and the rear. And it's just like somebody reaching over and whispering in your ear. So anyway, I going back to being in the hospital. So around 1 or 2 in the morning, I left my body. And what I experienced was I was flying through this star-filled realm. That's all I could call it for years. And nowadays we hear things like orbs and these, angelic beings and things like that. But what I saw was beautiful colored stars, and the emotion flowing through me was just welcoming and love and joy and overwhelming emotions like that. And I was parading through them, just going, oh my Lord, I didn't know a person could feel so good. It was overwhelming bliss. It was exhilarating. It was euphoric. It was a cosmic orgasm. And that's what, the French, they call a human orgasm. They call it la petite mort, which means the little death. And this thing that I felt when I was flying through these stars was 100 times more blissful than what we experience here on Earth. It was.
Were you flying alone, or did you see any angels?
Excuse me?
Were you flying alone when you were flying? Did you meet any other person? Did you see any other thing?
I didn't see any ancestors or anything. but I was around these stars, these beautiful colored stars, and they were conscious beings. They had, thoughts of love and welcoming. Is that
No,
does
I
that
was
work?
asking, yeah, when you were flying, say you were flying through the cloud, like, were you alone, or like, we were flying with some angels or any other being? That's what I was asking.
Okay. Yeah, from my perspective, I was alone, but that was the first time I'd had anything like that. And, the near-death experience, there's a lot of them. This is a bigger story. This is an opening up. This is a, Kundalini process. And since then, I've had a lot of things. And yeah, there are beings that you see that are with you. But on that night, on that experience, I believed I was alone. But yeah, since then, it's obvious that you have guides that take you places. Is that a good answer?
Yeah. 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 Please continue with your story.
Okay. And so I was flying along, and the thing that was going through my head was, how in the world did I forget who I really was? Was it possible that I thought I was this dude, this guy, Bill, that you're talking to here? Because I wasn't. That was like a game that we play, or a trick, or a joke that we pretend to be these separate, these cut off from the flow humans. And because that's not what we are. We return to this incredible flow and belonging. And so, yeah, that was absolutely the strongest thing. Was, how is it possible that I believed I was this guy, Bill? Because I wasn't. I was this huge expanded cloud. I was this awareness that didn't have any questions about anything. Name the subject. It was easy to me. I could see formulas and geometry and diagrams. It was complete knowledge and no questions at all. So I'm flying along going, this is awesome. This is awesome to be home and to be out of that hot, stuffy, dark closet that I was stuffed into, this body. It felt absolutely relieved to be out of that. And it's interesting because the woman who wrote the book, My Stroke of Insight, she had a stroke and she was pulled from her body, and she ended up between both worlds. And it's a bestseller. And she said that she felt like a genie let out of her bottle, and that she was this giant whale flowing through this sea of silent euphoria. And that's exactly what I mean, I use different words, but it's the same story. And that is what we all have to look forward to when we return. There's nothing to worry about.
So what happened after then? How did you come back?
So there's a little more to it. It gets a little funnier. But I was flying along thinking, this is awesome. I can do this forever. I'm home. And then I landed somewhere. And I landed in a place that was solid. There was indirect lighting, and there was equipment there, and there were tables. It was like a facility or a clinic or something. And right in front of me, there were these beings. There were these three short little squatty guys, and they had hoods, and they were in dark robes, and they were overjoyed to see me. They were giggling and smiling from ear to ear, and they had bright eyes, and they were bouncing up and down. And they were and I was looking at them like, what is this place? And they were giggling and asking me questions like, how was it? What did you learn? What can you tell us? And one of them kind of stepped forward and he took a really hard look at me up and down. And then he turned to the other two and he said, he doesn't remember us. And they all started laughing uproariously. And I was like, well, I kind of remember you guys, but this is very strange all of a sudden. And it felt like, for ordinary people out there, it felt like a new roller coaster had opened up in town, and I went and rode it. And I came back, I got off the roller coaster, came back to the landing, and all my buddies are there, and they're like, dude, how was it? And that's the sense I got was, I always say this is a ride, this life is a ride. And it felt like it was a ride, and I had gotten off the ride and I was back with these guys. And they were very playful and they were very joyous and they loved me. They were stoked. You could just feel it. Like you come home to your dogs, and they all come to the front door and jump on you and stuff. And then kind of in the background was this other guy, and he was tall and wispy, and he really didn't. It was like, I see why a lot of religious paintings have these flowing robes and stuff, because he was made out of this like flowing energy, and he was very thin, like a Gumby, and he had a big smile on his face, bright eyes, and he came forward, and he kind of looked like I was looking at somebody underwater. He kind of separated, parts of him separated, and then it would all catch up again, like he was made out of mist or smoke or something. And when he came towards me, it was almost like, okay, it's my turn to say hello, and he kind of came into the scene. And when he came forward, my chest just expanded like it was going to explode, and my throat tightened like I was watching a wonderful heart, a movie that pulls on your hearts and you just want to cry. And I felt like I was just going to break down and cry uncontrollably from love. This tall, wispy guy, there was so much love coming from him that it was overwhelming. What you wanted to fall down and just cry. And he was equally a sweetheart, and we kind of talked back and forth. And every time I said something, he chuckled, and you could tell he loved me like I was a kid, a child, a toddler. And he was just chuckling the whole time. And sometimes I'd say something and he'd really get a good laugh out of that. And at one point I said, okay, I'm not going back to this body, this guy. There's no way. And so what's next? You guys, do we do a review of my life and then we move on from there? And he just laughed. He thought that was the funniest thing, that I would suddenly think I was in charge, because you're not in charge. We're on these journeys, and we answer to a higher power. But what he said was, sure, let's do that. How do you want to start? And he just laughed some more. And so I told some stories, I told things about.
So how were you communicating? Was it verbally, or was it just reading each other's mind, like telepathically, or you could hear each other speak?
Yeah, what I saw was like with the short little guys, when I looked at them, I looked at their faces and their face would appear. And then I'd look further and then a smile would appear. And so I think, we sort of formulate what our brain can handle, I think. And so most of this was telepathic. And I've never said that before, but to me, it was a conversation. And that's the only way we know to explain a conversation is that we speak and we get these sounds out, and then we all think, and then we all believe we know what the other person has to say. That wasn't a life review type thing. And they were just humoring me because it wasn't the end of this life, this guy here, Bill. And they all knew it, but I didn't know it. And I was going back. It was kind of a show and tell. And then I was going back, and later he told me, he said, you have to go back. You have something important to do. And a lot of near-death experiencers, they hear the same thing, that you have to go back. And, I think what I needed to do is, it's going on right now. These channels, all this near-death experience, I'm doing these interviews weekly, a couple a week. And so is everybody I know. And all these people are stepping forward with their stories. And it's a humanity's waking up. It's the first steps, but we're waking up to what we really are. So, yeah, I just told stories and stuff that happened in this life, and it wasn't, I wasn't reviewing things where things I said or did had some impact on others, and I would get to feel those emotions. That wasn't going on. I believe I was just being humored. And somewhere in the middle of one of those stories, he just goes, okay, time to go back. And I was like, go back? Dude, what? And I was like, you got to be kidding me. I am not going back there. And he goes, yeah, you got to go back. Like I said, you got things to do, and they're important. And so he came forward, and I could feel things changing. I could feel that the frequency was changing and that I was going back. I was slowing down. The place started breaking up, started dematerializing, and I got a lower frequency. And pretty soon he just evaporated and I dropped away. And the next thing I remember, I was somewhere near my body. And it wasn't, that isn't a pleasant place. We have names for it, like Hades or hell or whatever. And it's, from my impression, it is right next to where we are in the physical. And, we are in these single bodies, these vessels, and we're navigating this place where these very powerful, low vibrational emotions stay. Things like hatred and anger and jealousy and anxiety and all these things that are unknown where we come from. They are here, and they're here for us to experience and to learn to stop reacting to, and learn who we really are. And then we transcend this place.
So how did you get back to your body?
I was, like I said, I was in this dark, kind of lonely, dismal place, and I knew my body was right there. I don't recall, going in any way and through the chest or anything like that. I just remember I was in my body, and some time went by, and I had this automatic blood pressure machine, had all this stuff on me, tubes and equipment. And this, the blood pressure cuff, it squeezes your arm. And so it would go on, and it woke me up, and I couldn't really do much because my pressure was still pretty low. It was in the 40s, but I could see the numbers lit up in the room, and I could see that it was, in the 40s, over zero. And every time it went off, every 10 or 15 minutes, I'm not sure what the cycle is on those, but it would, it'd wake me up. The pressure on my arm would wake me up, and I'd look at that, and I slowly, over the next hours, I slowly watched that those numbers climb. I got into the 60s and the 70s, and then I could stay awake. I could stay conscious, and at some point, a nurse walked by, and she saw me. I was kind of sitting up, looking around, and she's like, "Oh my goodness, you're awake!" And she was like really excited, and I go, "Yes, I am awake." And I said, "I need to talk to you." And she goes, "Well, I got to go tell the doctor. We've been worried. We didn't know what was happening to you. We didn't know where this was going, and I have to tell him immediately." And I said, "Okay, that's fine. But first," and I looked at her, darn serious. And I said, "What am I doing back here? I was home." I mean, I was so sad to be stuffed back into this, tube. And I said, "What am I doing back here? I was home. I was convinced I had bought the farm. I absolutely knew that, Bill was dead, and I was out of him, a wonderful life that he had. And now I was back. And so I said, yeah, I believed I had bought the farm. And how is it that I'm back here?" And she said, "Honey, you've been in escrow, and you fell out of escrow, and now you're back with us, and you're going to have to get your head around that." And that was a really good conversation to have as the first person to see, because I was so sad. It was just this, you're plunged back into this place of low vibration, of all these emotions. They're everywhere. And that is the real universe, is our emotions. The material world, the physical world, is an illusion.
Yeah.
So yeah,
yeah. Thank you very much. I've heard so many people say they go to heaven, or whatever they want to call it, and they don't want to come back, just like you said. So, to you, what is the main reason? Why are we here? What are we doing here? If there's a better place, a better world out there, what are we doing here?
Why are we coming? Why we come here is, I sort of alluded to it, is that this place is really dark emotions, really, dismal things that don't exist where we come from. We can't even imagine them. And we come here, it's as a challenge. It's a task that we do to see if we are up for the challenges that come with our scripted lives. Our lives are absolutely scripted, from, who we're going to be born into, how our life is going to go the whole way. And, we come here for joyous things, and to have a wonderful lives, and do wondrous things for others. But there's also the aspect of sacrifice and suffering that you can't get anywhere else. And just the nature of coming here, we're going to suffer, as we believe that we are this being, and we believe as we age, you have this wonderful life, and you're out in the world, and you're making this money, and you've got all this influence, and pretty soon you find yourself just down to your single house, and then you're down, as you get older and older, then you're down to a single room, then you're down to a single chair. And that's rough on us, because we think that this is the end of us. I've lost everything, and we slip into depression and things. But it's just a ride. It's just a roller coaster. It's what we're supposed to do with all of these emotions. We are supposed to learn to not react to them, to realize who we really are, that we are these amazing, highly expanded beings.
So are you looking forward to going back?
Yes, absolutely. But it's a lot's happened since the near-death experience, and I see a lot of really unbelievable things. And I'm convinced that the people that are speaking up right now, the near-death experiencers, you with this podcast, with these videos, this is humanity has turned the corner. 2012 wasn't the end of the world. It was the beginning of a new human being, the one that's going to have more of the other side poured into it. And this is how we do it. We awaken to what we really are and what's really going on here. That's going to happen slowly over centuries. But, the ancients, they called this time from 2012 until for the next several centuries, they called it the Age of Heroes. And, with the precession of the equinox, this is known as the Age of Heroes. And, just watching these videos, there's hundreds of them now. Hundreds of people are speaking up. And this was maybe dozens of people just a few years ago.
So are you implying that the world is going to get better? Or what do you mean by a time of heroes?
Yeah, the world is going to be more like heaven on earth. The precession of the equinox, there's a golden age and there's silver age and there's bronze age, and the iron age is at the bottom. 2012 was the bottom point. There's a couple different theories, but that was the upturn point. And now we're heading back. We're in a bronze age, apparently, according to the experts, the guys I like, the guys that run the conference on precession and ancient knowledge. They put us entering the bronze age. And when we enter the silver age, most of us are going to have a clue what's really going on, what we really are. And then, it progresses into the golden age, to where we're like heavenly beings walking the earth with energy all around us and auras. And, a woman told me there'll be no need for courts or cops or prisons, because everyone's intention, energy is going to be right there for everyone to see. And
but I don't really see that. I actually see the world getting worse as it is. Politicians are ruining the world. There's more hatred. There's no love. I actually feel that in the 80s, way back, was even better than right now. I think, to me, in my perception, I feel the world is going backward in terms of love and unity. Now we are so divided along religious line, along political lines. Just look at the United States. Look at what is happening. Even here in Canada, even here in Canada is war. Liberals, conservative, So I don't really see the world getting better. To me, I see it's getting worse.
Yeah. That's part of the cycle. It's like a never-ending cycle. It's gone on forever. And there is currently there's a cleansing, and we get to choose. Are we going to get involved with everything you just mentioned, and march in the streets and hate your neighbor and get a gun and shoot at other drivers on the freeway, because that's kind of what is coming. You're not wrong there, but it's up to us in every moment what we're going to choose. Are we going to choose to be kind and love each other and have that divine being that's in all of us step to the forefront? Or are we going to go in with all this stuff, this violence and hatred? And yeah, you're right, it's going to get wild, because there's a lot of cleansing to be done. The world, is going to return to nature. If you've heard of the Georgia Guidestones, there are these giant pillars that were erected in the 70s, and it had how things are going to be, that we're going to be, we're going to live our lives with goodness, and we're going to be close to nature. And, it's as biblical as you can imagine, these big, tall pillars chiseled in stone. And it's kind of a nowadays 10 Commandments. And yeah, the world is going to go back to that. And everything that you just mentioned is going to fall away.
So if I may ask, are you religious?
Any kind of religion that you could name, like Protestant or Catholic or any of those things? No, I went through, like everyone else, I went through all of that. I went through, being raised in a Catholic house and going to Christianity. But a lot of, the things I have noticed, being around indigenous people and stuff, that it's a lot of religions are just a lot of human beings have put their spin on these very divine aspects of ourselves. That's what I think. And it's kind of gotten, if you and I, Kelvin, if you and I sat down right now and said, hey, we just got $10 billion from the US government to create a world of religion, we'd order pizzas in a few hours and we'd have it all screwed up before the pizzas even got here. As far as laying down how things are going to go. I'd be telling everybody, we got to own 2 dogs or you're not in the religion, and that's kind of running off course.
Yeah, that means you didn't see Jesus. So I wanted to ask your perception on Jesus. So what's your perception on Jesus?
Yeah, the thing with, so I've done a bunch of these, and I read the comments sometimes, and somebody says, when you saw that tall, wispy guy, that was Jesus. And I'm like, yeah, I think so. And, I'll write back to him. And then somebody else will say, well, that was Lord Krishna. And, some guy from the East. And somebody else wrote that was Shiva or something. And I always say the same thing. It's like, yeah, that fits. That fits with the human being trying to define what we see. And we all define it differently, and there's all these ways that you can sign on with a group and go with their doctrine and their dogma and stuff like that. But you don't need any of them. You just need, silence and stillness in nature. And if you sit there long enough, you'll connect. You quiet yourself, you quiet your mind, you'll connect with that higher self that I experienced. That guy was cool. And you can tap into him just by getting into nature and quieting your mind.
All right. Do you believe in you said you grew up as a Catholic. Do you believe in the concept of hell?
Yeah, I believe that where I was when I came back and I was near my body and it was not fun. I believe that when we leave our bodies, and if we're confused, if we are in a state of astonishment, then we get stuck. We get stuck in very close to the physical. And I think that's what ghosts are. And, even aliens. This is energetic beings, non-physical energetic beings, that what we are at our core is stuck there. And
I think the Catholic has a name for it.
Purgatory.
Purgatory.
Yeah.
So, but that is separate from hell. The concept of hell, of people being hell, burning, being tormented. Purgatory is different from hell. What I was asking that, do you believe in hell?
I don't know if I believe. That's a big question. I don't believe, I don't know if I believe that people are tormented. I think their thoughts and, we are these incredible creators with our thoughts. We create, on the other side, we create our reality, and their thoughts, those low vibrational thoughts, emotions, they create that environment. That's what I think.
All right. Just to be clear, myself, I don't believe in the concept of hell, though. Although I'm a Christian, I don't believe in hell. So, but I like to ask people. I like to hear others' opinion.
Yeah.
So how did your ND, how did it change your life?
Well, initially it didn't, because I had to, like I said, after a couple of weeks, when I got back to work, I was had to recover for a little while. When I got back to work, I told everybody. I told everybody that asked me, I heard something really wild went on. Can you tell me, and I told everyone, that there is nothing to worry about, that we are these amazing beings, and death is an illusion. It's a joke, and it's a 10 million% upgrade as soon as you cross over, and you're just home, and there's never anything to worry about, and we never lose any. We never lose our family or our pets, or they've just slipped out of this physical illusionary world, left this body behind, and they've gone home, our real home. And so, yeah, that was then. And I kind of had to toe the line, because I was a fireman. I went on to be a captain, and you can't talk like a crazy person, or they start looking at you. So I pretended none of it happened, and unless somebody wanted to talk about it. And then when I retired in 2010, this journey, it just came roaring back. It's almost like I was pushed into getting near shamans and getting near indigenous people, Native Americans, and slowing all the way down to where I didn't believe I knew anything anymore. And then all these experiences happened. The third eye opens, and you see energies, and you see on people, you see other faces pop up, past lives. We are these amazing, unbelievable beings moving through time and having a blast.
I really appreciate your time. Is there any word you have final word you have for our audience?
Yeah, I could tell you were, that's something you ponder, is that religion thing. And religions are man's way of trying to define what happens to us. And all religions, they come down to the same thing at their base. Once you get past all the, fire and brimstone and wrath and all that stuff. But the main thing is to be kind, to treat others the way you'd like to be treated. Do unto others as you'd have others do unto you. That is at the core of every religion. And kindness, being kind and being cool. That's what we're supposed to learn to do here. And then we, vibrationally, we earn our wings. That kindness is the highest vibration. We earn our wings, and we transcend, this lower levels that we're sitting on. We're kind of sitting right next to. We earn our wings, and we vibrate out of this place. Because the world is behaving exactly it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's giving us this, experience, and we're not supposed to fix it, or we're not supposed to change it in any way. We're supposed to stop reacting to it and just be kind to our neighbors and stuff.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.